Hobgoblins and witches and things that go bump in the night.
Bang!
Hello and welcome to Evil Dread. We are starting this week off with a bang.
Literally.
Well, we just watched an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000
And there was a recurring a gunshot joke, so
by Crow.
no one's ever gonna understand what we're talking about.
So watch the Cry Wilderness
Watch
episode.
Cry Wilderness, it's really funny. It's
However,
an inside joke.
That is not the theme of this
Bang.
episode. Bang!
Love it.
So this week we are discussing the godfather of the zombie movie. The founding father. The
George Romero.
The Genesis.
The
the
George
Jesus.
Okay, we're talking about George Romero, guys. This is more Wyatt's thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves him so much.
I owe a
had
lot.
Wes Craven. He has Romero. So.
I owe a lot to Romero. In fact, I owe him part of my undergrad tuition fees.
Why?
Well, this story takes place.
I've never heard this story. I don't know what's happening.
The story opens well before undergrad Wyeth. Growing up, my parents are great. They always.
Okay, I can't wait to hear what's next.
They're great because they put up with me, young Wyeth.
Well, that's a lot to deal with. So.
And they were especially my mom. She deserves like sainthood for patiently going to all sorts of video stores that used to be around.
But why doesn't she want zoodles? Al asked Wyatt if his mom wanted something that'll turn zucchini into noodles, and he said, no, that's too fancy. I don't know how anyone could say no to zoodles.
I can't see Pam Leslie desiring to turn zucchini into zoodles.
Squash noodles? Snoodles? Shoodles? Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Spoodles?
welcome to Cooking with Lynn and Wyatt. Well, anyway.
Sorry.
So I would always request my mom pick up horror movies for me because this was before I was 17 and could get them myself. And so my parents would only let me watch horror movies if I could give like a good reason as to why I should be allowed to watch it. And Romero's zombie movies were among the very limited like R movies or like serious horror movies that I could get them to rent for me.
What were the other ones? What else could you like justify?
I could see Tremors, but I couldn't see Gremlins.
Oof.
It was
Gremlins is messed up.
Gremlins is dark.
Yeah.
So it was the line in the sand was more like it's big
called
loopy.
hypocrisy, but okay. Go ahead.
Sure, we'll go with that. But I was able to argue about how George Romero had social commentary in his movies. And
I picture you as a small boy in a suit and a PowerPoint.
That's exactly how it went down.
All right.
And so my parents, they would rent like Day of the Dead, and they would give
Day of the Dead? The like third one?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
There were several times where I asked them to rent Dawn of the Dead, but my mom each time got Day of the Dead.
Oh wow. Okay.
She just really got her time of zombies messed
Yeah.
up. But they would give me the movie, and each time they would make some snide comment about how is this going to help you in the rest of your life.
Oh God. Why does every movie have to help you in the rest of your life?
So, fast forward to undergraduate Wyeth applying for scholarships at the University of Central Oklahoma, and I found a English scholarship, and I turned in an essay about the social commentary of George Romero's movies, and I was awarded the scholarship. And so presenting that check to my parents.
How much Mooney?
It was like $250 a semester.
Cool.
And it was one of the proudest moments where I got to be like.
You said in your face.
More or less.
Mr. and Mrs. Leslie.
But politely.
Okay.
So George Romero helped pay for my undergrad.
I mean, partially. Yeah.
In a sense.
Very cool. So, he's never been like number one for me, but I like recognize and respect his place in the genre,
Mm-hmm.
like it would not have been the same without him, of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, you gotta give it to him for just like sticking with something his entire career. Because I mean, and we'll talk about it, but he did try to branch out into other like forms of horror and other monster movies and
Mm-hmm.
stuff to varying degrees of success.
Yeah.
But he knew what he was good at, and he stuck with it.
Yeah. Do you remember like the first time you watched Night of the Living Dead?
I think it was, I don't know if I watched it all the way through that night, but when I was in late middle school, all throughout high school, there's always these weird local channels that like are like you pick up through antenna or DirecTV or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some that on the weekends would do the horror host shows, but modern ones. So I would watch on Sunday nights during the summer and stuff. I would watch Offbeat Cinema, which was out of Buffalo, New York, and it was like 3 people in black and white, and they all wore berets and sunglasses, and it was like Beat Generation, like 50s cool cat kind of thing. And then somewhere out of Texas was Wolfman Mac's Chiller Drive-In, and I watched that on Saturday nights. And I think it was one of those, because that is one of those movies that was featured, the copyright expired
Mm-hmm.
early, and so it's been featured on all of those, like, public domain horror movie
Mm-hmm.
shows. I actually did a whole huge long paper about those shows in my TV class, and so I know a lot about them.
Huh.
There was actually it was called the Shock Theater Package, and it was kind of you buy this package of movies, and it's really cheap for these local stations that were desperate for programming.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they would make up their own horror host, which was usually like a weatherman or something by day. And so it was like really cheap and kind of a boon for the networks, but that meant that they all showed the same movies, and they still basically do. And speaking of Mystery Science Theater, which we just watched, that's all public domain movies too. So Night of the Living Dead was a public domain movie. So I definitely watched it then, I think, on Halloween at some point. I don't know if I sat through the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
but...
I love how, because of the copyright issue, it just shows up everywhere.
It's everywhere, yeah.
It got a prominent scene in The Big Sick.
Really?
Which is, side note, one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, you've talked about it. I didn't... How did they fit it in there?
Kumail, when he brings a date home, he's like, oh, you have to watch this movie. And so, great first date movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole, I love this scene because
Yeah.
he's like, are you watching this? This is very important.
That's how I act with you, and you're always on that phone.
I am.
Yeah.
But I in turn act this way to Al when we're watching, when I make her watch, a Godzilla movie.
Yeah. There was a whole few weeks on Offbeat Cinema where they did all the Godzillas, and I was like, I don't care for this. But I mean, to get back to Romero, that's one of the few acknowledged quality movies in those kind of packages and the free rights movies.
Yeah, it's like an A-grade movie in a Z-grade crowd.
Yes, yeah. Because the other ones are like Dementia 13 and other Roger Corman ones and shit like that. So, all right. So, what was the first Romero movie you saw?
The first one I saw was Night of the Living Dead.
I feel like that's everyone's first.
Mm-hmm. Saw it online in 360 definition. And
I mean, it's not super HD anyway.
No. But I was very deeply affected by it.
It holds up.
Mm-hmm.
It's still shocking in an odd way.
I saw it before the age of spoilers had really kicked in.
Yeah.
And so the ending deeply shocked me.
Oh, so you didn't know what it was?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that was my reaction as well. The thing I remember is just how quickly it turned from something so normal to something so terrifying in the cemetery scene, like the they're coming to get you, Barbara thing, where it's just like, what if some dude just came up to you and like killed your brother?
Yeah.
Like, no preamble, no explanation, and now he's trying to kill you, and now he has a rock and he's breaking your window, and it's really visceral, weirdly.
For a black and white, what's supposed to be like a cheesy horror movie, it's surprisingly...
Oh, it's frightening.
Like, depressing.
Oh, yeah, it's hardcore.
I think what...
It did the first kind of like, what if man is the real monster kind of thing that has been run into the ground by The Walking Dead and all that.
We'll get into that, because I have a bone to pick.
Okay, I thought you were like, I have a boner for that.
Oh.
Alright, but he has a bone to pick.
I have a bone to pick.
Alright.
One of the things that sets Romero apart from, I guess, the horde of, like, his imitators, because everyone wants to do a zombie movie.
Well, it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
That it's the beginning for most people to get into the genre.
I think no one does the human element as well as Romero ever did.
I can see that. I mean, because the people are both sympathetic and, like, understandably make poor decisions. Like, I'm thinking mostly in Dawn of the Dead, because that was the one that I like the best. Yeah, Barbara in Night of the Living Dead is not very solid, but I mean, Dwayne is the name of the actor.
Yeah.
Who plays the hero of Night of the Living Dead. So anyway, the hero of Night of the Living Dead is a black man in 1968, and that was incredibly notable. And Ben? Is it Ben?
That's it, Ben, yeah.
Oh, I'm so smart. So, yeah, and Ben is really just this amazing, like, take charge, doesn't take any shit, but still very, you know, empathetic.
Yeah, he doesn't come across as, like, a black...
What?
My tongue just, like...
Okay,
quit.
what were you trying to say?
Blaxploitation.
Blaxploitation?
Blaxploitation character.
Yes. And I mean, I heard that Romero said that he just cast the best actor. But I don't think he wasn't thinking about the racial implications of that. And I am reminded of, there's a review I read from Roger Ebert back when that came out, and he was like, this was a double bill with another like cheesy horror movie, and all these kids were there and they were having fun, and then like once Night of the Living Dead started, like they got quiet and like realized that this is different from this is actually disturbing,
like people
terrifying.
Started crying.
Yeah
I think it was because this came out before like Texas Chainsaw, didn't it?
Oh yeah, this was late 60s.
Yeah.
This was before, I think it was the same year as Rosemary's Baby.
Okay.
So yeah, it was early.
I think this is one of the first like truly serious pieces of like horror.
Okay. What do you think would come before it?
The only things that I can think of that come before are the serious atomic fears pictures. Like the original Godzilla is very serious in that you see like burn victim children.
Yeah.
I think Them is also surprisingly serious for a movie about giant radioactive ants.
Yeah. I would argue, I don't know, I feel like the Universal era was a hallmark of horror for me.
Well, I'm not talking about like serious as like quality. I'm talking about like
social.
Like, yeah, having elements of social commentary.
Okay.
It's darker tone.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not super familiar with like pre-Universal era, but yeah.
Neither am I. All I can think of before that's like Caligari.
Yeah. So, I mean, true. I mean, this is one of the first big, notable horror films that had something to say about society.
And it's also surprisingly graphic for a black and white
movie.
Oh
my god, yeah. I mean, still today, and we've talked about this before, children and babies like being hurt or killed or killing someone is still extremely taboo. Not so much as it was, but I mean, in 1968, seeing a little girl eating her dad, okay,
yeah, and
it's a lot to deal with.
Ben shoots her, and there's a scene where in Dawn of the Dead, where Ken Foree's character machine guns 2 children zombies.
Oh yeah.
And I'd forgotten about the scene, and this afternoon it was shocking to me.
So, what are your thoughts on Dawn of the Dead? Like, just rank his movies, or the ones you've seen.
I think the one that has left the most impact, because it's the closest to my reality, might be Diary of the Dead, which I really like.
Yeah, I like that one too.
But in terms of like overall quality, Dawn of the Dead, of course.
I agree. Yeah. I think out of his like big 3 of like the Dead franchise, it's Dawn, Night, and then Day, which I think is general consensus. Like, everyone thinks that. Not that I'm saying that Day is bad. I think Day is interesting and has its own kind of it was
a real missed opportunity because of production company.
Okay. Well, and I mean, it talks about the military-industrial complex and that
isolationism,
Yeah, so that's more inherently political than the first one was about race relations, and the second was about capitalism.
Yeah. The second one also, Dawn of the Dead also has some surprising commentary about race in the beginning, where the apartment raid.
That, I hated the apartment raid. So, I've seen this movie a few times. I rented it on DVD first when I was an undergrad, and then like right at the end of my living in Albuquerque, we went to see it at a midnight showing, and it was really good. It was so good to see it on a big, well, it wasn't a big screen, but in a theater with other people. I actually won a poster.
Nice.
There's one in my room. But yeah, I hate the opening apartment scene because it's a bunch of racist cops going in to see that the zombie outbreak has happened in like a tenement housing, like in like a ghetto area,
which I mean, well, it's kind of a commentary about like, because a lot of epidemics begin in like impoverished areas, and it seems like these cops like, oh, gotta go put down the poor people because they're spreading the disease.
Yeah, for sure. Or that it's just like coming in to contain this like immorality that's supposedly breeding there. Yeah.
And I like that Peter and Roger, the 2 sympathetic SWAT team members, they have that moment with the priest in the basement, and I think, well, other than like Warm Bodies, Romero's movies tend to like be able to humanize the zombies.
Yeah.
And like
Bub. Remember Bub?
Yeah.
I love Bub.
Or even Big Daddy and Land of the Dead.
I don't know if I've seen Land of the Dead.
I think it's kind of underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it. But the part with the priest in the basement in Dawn of the Dead, like the priest begs them to give these zombies like a respectful send off.
Yes.
Just to put them out of the misery.
And I mean, I think the zombie movie has gotten so, especially like in the 50s and 60s, it was so like teen drive-in fare. Like, whoa, they're, like, it was played more for laughs and campiness. And these are so dead serious in their like emotions and politics.
I mean, there's some humorous moments in Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, but it's not like,
but
it's in a horrific situation that is always like recognized as horrific.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I liked the
dead air.
I liked it. I had forgotten just how humane Dawn of the Dead can be.
Yes.
Because, like, the scene after the 4 characters clean out the mall and they killed all the zombies and they just look sick for doing it. When in, like, most zombie movies, the heroes kill like thousands of zombies, and it's just like an average day.
Yeah.
Like the weight of killing something that was once human, never. There's no real weight.
Definitely. I like the sequence in Dawn of the Dead where they're kind of like living normally for a solid like 40 minutes, I feel like, in the middle before the bikers come in. And it's just like, I don't know, it has this really odd kind of like domestic drama feel to it amidst this really horrific situation.
Like they have everything, but they're miserable.
Yes, definitely. And oh my god, Ken Foree is an amazing actor. I love him so much.
He does such a great job, yeah. I
went home a few months ago or whatever, and I watched Kenan and Kel, and he is Kenan's dad on Kenan and Kel, and I lost my mind. I was like, oh my god, when there's no more room in hell, you will go to Kenan and Kel. Yeah, that's a great movie. Speaking of the humanity of it, I think Peter's the one who turns into a zombie about midway through, right? The blonde fellow.
That's Peter is Ken. Roger. Roger's the blonde guy.
Okay, so Roger. Yeah, when he gets bit and then they kind of just have to like bear it and then like wait. It's so heartbreaking.
It's so sad.
Because they're basically like debating on whether or not to put him out of his misery or waiting till he, comes back.
And he's talking to Peter, and he's like, I'm going to try to fight it when I go.
Ugh.
And it's drawn out in a way that you don't normally see.
Yes.
Like, the trope of a survivor's been bit, one of the group's been bit, like, most shows and movies deal with it, like, within 10 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
And Romero lets it linger
to like a painful
it's for like
awful.
Way more impact.
He really gets us to like this person, but then like also you see him during the truck exchange kind of thing, and I'm like, you're taking way too many risks. No, like, you're on your seat, on the edge of your seat, because something bad's gonna like it's not a sustainable situation that they're in.
Another thing I really love about Dawn of the Dead is how it handles the character of Francine.
Yeah.
Like, I think it more than makes up for Barbara.
I agree, yeah.
Because, like, she has way more agency. Like, it's revealed that she's pregnant, and then it's up to her whether or not she wants to keep it.
Yes.
And I like...
Which, honey, no.
During a zombie apocalypse.
Don't
do
that. It's just not realistic. Okay.
But there's a scene where she's like, okay, so first of all, Flyboy. I hate that. I hate him. I hate the character. Her boyfriend.
I like him.
Richard?
You just told me that the blonde guy was named Richard.
Roger.
Okay. Anyway, Francine's boyfriend. I like him.
He's constantly like blaming things on her.
I haven't seen this in a long time, but I remember liking him.
He's kind of a scumbag. Like, he leaves her without a gun in one moment.
Okay, that's pretty shitty.
But anyway, and at one point Francine's like, I want to help. I want to be like a protective part of this team.
Yes, teach me how to shoot.
And Flyboy's like, I don't know, but you're a woman. And Peter's like, we can't let you come unless you learn how to shoot a gun.
Ken Foree's like, I'm here for you.
Yeah, I like that he's like, he doesn't just say yes. He's like, all right, you have to learn how to do things the right way first. Yeah. And I think that's a really realistic aspect.
I love that they're the ones who survive at the end because they are the most resourceful and smartest of all of them.
And level-headed.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, Flyboy is always breaking protocol, running off to do
his... a lot. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dawn of the Dead.
It's a classic.
How do you feel about the remake?
I really like the remake.
I enjoy the remake too. I think I like the original one better because it's a more limited cast. I think it
has more things to say.
The expanded cast makes it kind of, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the zombie baby storyline. I think that's ridiculous.
Like, Well, it's like two different movies. Like
Yes,
the
one's
first,
an action movie and one's horror movie.
well, it's kind of like one's an amusement park, one's a museum.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay, but you know I'm right.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
But like the remake is
it's a Zack Snyder movie.
I will say
eye candy.
It's his only like
it's his
genuinely good movie.
I agree. Yes.
Which thanks to that James Gunn script.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's saying something when the remake is as solid as the original because I mean that speaks to the quality of the original.
Well, I was in middle school when the big three zombie movies came out. Like 8th grade was Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later, and Shaun of the Dead.
Oof. Okay.
So that was
2001.
No.
2002.
That was like 2003, 2004.
Oh wow, I was so off. But yeah,
It was the rebirth of the zombie craze.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being in Chicago and seeing the trailer for the Dawn of the Dead remake, and I was terrified.
It's scary.
It's a great trailer.
Because the zombies in that are so much more aggressive than the ones in Dawn of the Dead. But, or in the original.
Yeah.
Thoughts about other Romero movies?
Day of the Dead, like you said, is very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it was a good script and could have been executed better.
Well, they cut it. The budget was supposed to be like $30 million, and it got cut down to $9 million.
Oof.
Because Romero said he wouldn't cut back on gore.
That has some really intense gore, that movie.
Oh yeah.
When they rip him in half at the end. I don't like that.
Nope.
But I like the kind of psychological fantasy elements of that movie, which aren't really there in the previous two. Like when she's looking, the famous kind of moment where she's looking at the calendar and all the hands come out of the wall, and then it's revealed to be like kind of her fever dream kind of thing. So yeah, I like the visuality of it a lot.
All three of the original trilogy, they all feature like strong, good guy African American characters.
Yes, they do, and it may be in name only in regards to Barbara, but like leading women who are proactive.
Yeah, both Dawn and Day have very well. In Day, the main character is what's her name?
Yes. So yeah, have you seen any other of his?
Yeah, I've seen Land.
I've seen Diary. I saw it at a party and I enjoyed it.
A party movie?
Well, it was like a zombie party.
Okay.
It was a marathon movie party.
I
enjoyed it.
I really liked Land of the Dead. It's more, out of all of his movies, I never saw the one after Diary, which I heard no one liked.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know either.
I gave a cursory glance at the IMDb for the notable ones earlier.
But Land of the Dead feels like Romero's most big movie.
Isn't that the last one? 2009? From when I looked at the IMDb about an hour ago?
It's the one that came between Day and Diary.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, Land of the Dead has a great performance by Mr. Evil from Blue Velvet.
Dennis Hopper?
Dennis Hopper's in it.
Okay. Did you really forget the name Dennis Hopper?
I did in this moment.
Mr. Evil, I was like Mike Myers. But,
So in Land of the Dead, Pittsburgh has somehow survived the outbreak. And
all of them are set in Pittsburgh. Because that's his hometown.
Mm-hmm. But, it's walled off. Mm-hmm. And it's all controlled by this old white guy.
Yeah.
Who doesn't let in undesirables.
Okay.
So
America 2017.
So Romero predicted a lot.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I was doing my research into horror movie local hosts, the Pittsburgh guy, I can't remember his name. He was an older guy, and he kind of played it straight. He wasn't really a character,
Mm-hmm.
but he gave Romero kind of his first shot, and that guy is one of the like policemen in Night at Night.
Okay.
So yeah, like he's kind of like a huge part of Pittsburgh and their local culture.
Yeah.
And him and that horror movie host. And Tom Savini, which we haven't even talked about Tom.
Tom is a
wizard.
A real linchpin for this series.
I love him so much. And he's the worst biker in Dawn of the Dead, which I hate because I hate seeing Tom Savini as a bad guy, but
Is he a nice guy? I've never heard any stories about him.
He's great. He has a special effects makeup school in Pittsburgh.
Aww.
So, yeah.
Yeah, while I love the Dead series for like story, I mean the series would not be as iconic as they are, or probably fame through notoriety if they weren't so gory.
Yeah, exactly. But it's thoughtful gore, which I enjoy.
Like there's work ethic behind it.
Definitely. And it is for shock value, but it's not gratuitous also. Like there is a lot of it, but in Dawn there's a long time that goes by without having any violence happen.
Oh yeah, there's like a solid hour.
Which is one to build suspense, but
also Dawn of the Dead is
character.
such a long movie.
It's so long. I went to see it as a fucking midnight. It was long. Yes. It was very long. But I think it earns it too. Mm-hmm. So, have you seen any of the non-zombie Romero?
I have not. I've seen the remake of The Crazies, which is
with the elephant.
Mm-hmm. Timothy Olyphant, Mr. Fine. That movie is great. Okay.
I heard good things about it, but I never saw it. I didn't see the original either. I have seen Martin. I got Martin in high school, and it's such an odd movie. It's a vampire movie that's like unflinching in its realism because it won't tell you whether or not he's just mentally ill or if he's really a vampire. Either way, he's killing people and taking their blood, but he's like a weird like socially awkward late teen, and his entire family is like Eastern European or something like that, and they believe him to be a vampire, and they've told him that like he's cursed and is the curse of the family and that he inherited this curse. So you don't know if he's just been told he is this or if he really is, and it does not confirm or deny. Like it does not give you any hard answers, which is interesting, and I appreciate it, but also it's not a super, compelling movie. It's just kind of slow and not really, doesn't grab you. So it's unfortunate, but I mean, it was a great idea.
I've wanted to see his version of the Crazies, but I heard there was a rape scene, and I tend to back away from movies if I know there's a scene.
Me too. And yet most movies have them, and I hate it. And then Creepshow.
Oh yeah.
The original Creep. I haven't seen that, but it looked fun. I mean,
I've heard it's fun.
It looked more cotton candy colored.
Like it's kind of like the Creepshow is kind of a fun.
It's a comic book.
Yeah.
So they based it off the comic book and it's like a little anthology movie. What's Stephen King?
Yeah, with the alien plant.
A plant, which is fun. Like isn't it like The Lonesome Death of Jodie something?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, it's a great title. So other things about Romero.
Well, you've talked a bit about Diary of the Dead, which also holds up because that was before the rise of
found footage.
Because that's George Romero's. It came out the same year as Cloverfield. And it's George Romero's foray into found footage, and it basically reboots the mythology.
Yeah.
The outbreak happens again, and it's a bunch of like college documentarians.
So insufferable college kids.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, What I do recall of it is one of the kids kind of snaps, and they're at his, like, dad's house.
Yeah.
And he's, like, kind of... It's like... I don't know... a crazy person movie in the middle of a zombie movie, and I found that part more compelling than the zombie movie.
They find out that he's been keeping his dead friends and family in a pool, and they just are shuffling along the bottom.
Yeah, which is a really great image. But yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to give that one another watch.
Ending haunts me.
Okay.
The ending where the lead girl, she talks about how someone uploaded to the internet a bunch of or a video of a bunch of rednecks using female zombies as target practice.
Yes.
And like, especially here in 2017, when it feels like every other day I could get onto Twitter and see videos of cops shooting someone.
Jesus.
Like, that moment feels way more real now.
Yeah, I can see that. That is... going back, kind of, the ending to Dawn, the remake did that to me when they're on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
And they make it to this island, and then it's over the credits also, which is like a really baller move.
Which,
to be like...
that movie has some great music choices.
Yes, I agree. But they're on a boat they finally got to the ocean or whatever, but then all of their meat is, like, rotted and all their food
the gas is running out.
Oh, it's so scary. And then they get to, it's on, like, a handheld camera, too, and they get to, this island or whatever, and then
so they're on the Great Lakes. Are there islands in the Great Lakes?
Maybe they got to Canada.
Maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Somewhat.
I'm not from that
James
area.
Gunn, come talk to us.
And then they find land somewhere, and then they're immediately overrun by zombies. So it's like no hope. I hate movies that don't have no hope. That's why I don't like zombie movies. Sorry.
Well, that's fair. The original Dawn of the Dead is just Peter and Francine.
They get in a helicopter.
We'll give it our best shot.
Yes.
Our helicopter's low on fuel. I mean, it is more hopeful than the original ending, which was both of them commit suicide.
Oh, God. It's just so... I can't do movies where there's, like, absolutely no hope at the end.
I get that.
You know, it's so depressing, and like, oh, well, if this was all for naught, great. That's how I feel. I guess we can talk about Walking Dead, since it is such a big
it
part
owes
of
such
zombie.
a debt to Romero.
But I feel like this about that show and Game of Thrones and this new kind of trend of like super nihilistic storytelling.
Tragedy porn?
Well, it's like anyone could die at any time. And I'm like, well, why do I give a fuck about anyone then? Why do I make an emotional connection with this story if I'm just constantly reminded that none of it means anything? If none of it means anything, I'm not gonna watch anymore, okay? Like, and I know there's the argument to be made that, like, it's what happens along the way that's important, but I'm like, but if that's undercut constantly by this kind of, like, brutal realism that, like, anyone can die, I'm not going to get invested emotionally at all.
Yeah.
So, in something like Dawn of the Dead, I'm like, oh, you survived, you made it, you, like, persevered, and that's what horror is, why it's important to me.
You're into survival.
Yes, it's important to me because it shows perseverance and that you can overcome things even if you're left scarred physically and emotionally and psychologically at the end. But to me, I'm like, if everyone dies at the end, what use was that 6 months that you're gonna end up dead anyway?
Like, I get so stressed out when I'm seeing a movie for the first time, especially a horror movie, and even more so when I come to like the characters.
Yes.
Like, I remember seeing 28 Days Later for the first time.
That's one that I like because it has a tiny little bit of hope at the end.
I mean, it is a hopeful ending.
Yes.
It comes down hard on the side of happy ending.
Yes, I know, and it was very surprising to me.
I was surprised too. Like, I was so stressed out through that movie because I believed that everyone was going to die.
Well, that's okay. We're getting a little off topic, but I'm getting more excited now. But like movies set in space always do that for me. Like Sunshine, I'm like, everyone's going to die, and it does not matter, okay? What's happening? Yes, they're gonna save the planet or whatever, you know, but it's just so inherently doomed. I'm like, you're all going to die, so I'm not going to be interested. I'm not going to get invested.
I think Sunshine's a little bit different because it's like for the greater good.
I know, but in
Welcome
terms
to
of,
the Danny Boyle
in terms
episode.
of the plot on the spaceship,
I see.
I don't care for it.
A lot of sci-fi movies are a doomed crew.
Which I don't like. There's nowhere you can run to. You're in space. I don't like space. You couldn't fucking pay me to go to space.
I'll take your seat on the next.
Yeah, go ahead, because I'd rather not die.
But
I'm getting mad for no reason.
Well, back to Romero. So Romero's passing was very traumatic.
Was that this year?
Last year.
Last year. Okay. Toby was this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Wes was the year before.
Protect John
Where's
Carpenter.
John? Do we know where John Carpenter is?
Do we have eyes
Call
on the
him.
Carpenter?
Oh, God.
But I legitimately cried when Romero passed away. Because growing up, he was such an icon to me. He was up there with Spielberg in terms of directors that I admired.
Oof. I mean, it can't really be understated what he did for that subgenre.
Or even the whole genre.
Not to minimize, but I feel like we just wouldn't have zombie movies without him, you know? Like,
that's
as they are,
huge.
I know, but I don't know. Yeah, he's not my number one, but he certainly made an impact.
And I feel like his Hollywood star was long overdue.
When did that happen?
This year.
Right after he died?
Like a couple months ago.
Oof, okay.
But Edgar Wright got to speak at the ceremony.
Cool.
Which is
I think, Shaun of the Dead is so... It's one of my faves, and I think it's the kind of the perfect, like, British version
Yeah.
of those movies.
I think it's one of the best movie love letters.
Yes, I agree.
And Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg were in Land of the Dead.
Yes, they were. I saw that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Good for you, George. Anything else?
I think everyone should see the first 5. I think everyone should see the 5 Dead movies. I know there's a 6, but for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it.
Okay. All right. I'd say at least see, if you're a more casual fan, see Night and Dawn. Those are just classic movies. They're just well-made, incredibly satisfying, compelling movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Dawn of the Dead is important even outside the genre.
Those,
just
I
an
think
American
both of them
movie.
are, yes. Especially Night, because of its racial commentary, which is, again, yet another ending that is just fucking brutal and horrific.
There's...
It is a 50-year-old movie.
It's
okay? You can say.
Well, for those of you who haven't seen it, the lone survivor, Ben,
who is a black man,
survives the zombie siege only to be shot by
policemen.
By a posse of police. And
yep. Which is still happening every week.
They never even checked if he was human or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so demoralizing.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Oh, can we what's your favorite recent zombie movie? We can do that.
Like how
Past 5 years.
Past 5 years. The Battery.
I don't know what that is.
It's this micro-budget, independent zombie movie, and it's just about 2 guys kind of wandering the backcountry. And there's way more heart and spirit in it than a lot of, like, bigger name releases.
Yeah.
But it's, once again, very much slow zombies.
Yes, yes.
And it's very much in the spirit of Romero movies. And I think it was a Kickstarter for like less than 50. It has to be less than 50,000.
Wow.
But it looks so good.
Nice.
And it's so well acted.
Is it one where, like, the friend is turning into a zombie? Is that
No.
what's happening?
Like, two guys. One is very, like, timid, and he's always afraid to, like, kill a zombie. And the other one has to do everything for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about them, like, it's like two people who wouldn't be friends normally. They kind of have to put up with each other.
Like you and me for this podcast.
Wow, okay. Way to devalue our friendship.
I would kill myself immediately in a zombie thing.
Oh my god.
Immediately.
If zombies were to break out, well, I'm now past the point of, like, wanting that to happen.
I fucking hated that cultural moment where, like, everyone was, especially, like, young teen, early 20s dudes are like, zombie apocalypse, survival plan, and I'm like, catch me at the motherfucking pharmacy just shoving pills in my face, because I'm gonna die. Like, nothing's gonna stop me from dying.
Well, I don't want the zombie apocalypse to happen now, but if it did, I would be slightly like, oh my god, I don't have to pay school anymore. I don't have to pay taxes.
That's extremely sad. Like, that, if anything, should be an argument for socialism.
We can restart society with better laws.
Okay.
Equality can finally happen now that we have officially restarted it.
God, I'm not strong. Like, my upper arms are like uncooked pasta. They would simply snap. I got a little bit too much around the belly area, and I can't run very fast, so I would be dead within the day, I believe.
All those conditions you just listed, but I've always considered myself a great hider. I've always done very well in hide and go seek.
Oh my god.
Fun fact for you all.
Okay. I'd rather not.
Fair.
In dreams and stuff like that, I have had dreams where I've been, like, in a forest and, like, zombies are around, or, like, someone's trying to kill me, and in the dream I made the executive decision to lay down.
Oh my god.
And just fucking let it happen.
I've had zombie dreams before, and I've done well in all of them, so I'm going to use that as a reference point.
Just lay down.
Nope.
And the earth, like, took me and, like, absorbed me, which was kind of cool, because I was like, alright, I'm done. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, it was great.
Another zombie movie that didn't get a lot of recognition.
Don't steal my answer.
I don't know.
Are you going to steal my answer?
I'm about to say Maggie.
Okay, no.
And surprisingly...
Come on, Schwarzenegger.
A surprisingly emotional Schwarzenegger. Like, he has...
I am emoting.
What?
Watch me emote. I'm emoting. That's my impression.
That is, of all your accents that you do well, turns out you don't do a good Schwarzenegger.
That's the best one.
But Maggie is a surprisingly well-acted Arnold Schwarzenegger zombie movie that features no scenes of action.
An Abigail Breslin joint.
She's great. It's very emotional. It's very slow, but it's well-acted. It has great cinematography.
That cinnamon topography, though.
Mm-hmm.
Poetic cinema.
It is. There's some real,
Tarkovsky eyes.
Oh my god. There's some real Tree of Life cinematography.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Some real
I loved Tree of Life.
I love Tree of Life too.
I've got so much shit in my life for loving Tree of Life.
What?
People really... one time I, like, suggested we watch it or something.
I'm sorry.
And a bunch of people were like, that was the worst thing I've ever seen.
All I've heard of, like, you're not a real fan if you don't like early Malick.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I like Tree of Life.
Eh.
But, so Maggie's the Malick zombie movie.
Nice.
What about you?
Train to Busan, bitch.
Oh my god, yes!
So when you were saying, like, that Ben, like, they don't give him time to identify himself as not a zombie, that's kind of the inverse of what happens at the end of Train to Busan.
Oh my god, I was sweating.
Train to Busan is like a brisk hour 40, but it feels like 7 hours, and also I sweated.
Oh,
it was really hot.
We stood up from the movie and, like, the pits
paused
were
it,
real.
right?
We all had to go, like, towel off.
Yeah, it was, I was very upset.
It is one of... It's basically if World War Z was actually stressful.
It's if that movie was good. I mean, like...
I liked World War Z as a popcorn flick.
So it focuses on... It's the South Korean movie, which is... They've been kicking ass.
Mm-hmm.
It focuses on a father and his daughter on a train, and an infected woman gets on the train, and they're going to, like, on, like, a 2-hour train ride.
To hell.
They have to, like, isolate, and then, of course, it spreads, and then they cut off part of the train, and then the daughter is trapped on the other side of the cutoff area.
They do everything so well. Like, the layout of the train.
Yes.
Like, everyone is super inventive.
Mm-hmm.
There's characters you can really root for as
Zombies
really
don't
hate.
have object permanence.
Yes.
So when you turn off the light, or if they don't see or hear you,
they forget about you.
They don't know you're there. So there's a lot of, like, we're going to cut the power for about 5 minutes, and you are going to sneak through this zombie-infested train car. And that's, the dad in that film he sacrifices himself to save his daughter, and then he kind of, kills himself kind of right as he's turning into a zombie. So
he throws himself off the train.
Yes, so he's not really a threat. But it ends with the pregnant woman,
the pregnant lady
and
the daughter singing in a tunnel, and they don't know it, but at the end of the tunnel, the South Korean military is lined up with snipers.
So they're like, who are these two?
We got 2 zombies.
Yeah, and then the girl starts...
You hear the girl, like, sobbing singing?
Yes.
And it's heart-wrenching.
And they're like, oh, zombies can't sing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna be safe now. And it's such a good movie.
Please see Train to Busan. It's easily one of the best horror movies of this decade.
So good, so good. I can't believe I can't let us stop talking about Romero without talking about the My Chemical Romance song, Early Sunsets Over Monroeville.
What?
Do you not fucking... What?
My love for...
I Brought You My Bullets. It's from their first album.
I never listened to that one.
Damn. Okay. So there is a My Chemical Romance song based off Dawn of the Dead.
Really?
And it's a very slow, like, ballad kind of thing, and it starts off really beautiful, and they're like, this is where escalators and sunsets and fountains and, empty stores and all that. So they're hiding out. And then it's the story of the narrator, who's the singer, realizing that his lover, girlfriend, whatever, is, like, slowly turning into a zombie. But he didn't know about the bite thing.
Naturally.
So... And he's trying to decide whether or not to kill her before, or would it still be murder, or would he be killing the love of his life, or protecting him. It's an incredibly emotional song. By the end, Gerard Way is just, like, sobbing,
that sounds
screaming.
like Gerard Way.
It's great. It's such a sad song, dude. God. It's so sad.
Do you have a favorite zombie movie?
I just told Train to Busan.
Of all time?
Well, like I said, I'm not super big into them. I guess Train to Busan. I watched about half a Night of the Creeps, and I enjoyed that. And then
it's supposed to be a fun movie.
Yeah, the plot is crazy. And then I need to finish Return of the Living Dead.
Wait, you've never seen all of it?
No.
I
have the copy.
Have always expected that to be, like, one of your favorite movies.
Well,
because you go hard on punks.
I do, and I like what I've seen of it. But so I'm gonna say right now, my favorite zombie movie is Train to Busan, with a caveat saying it might be Return of the Living Dead if I ever get around to finishing it.
I'm calling Return of the Living Dead.
Okay, all right. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Well, my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Other side of the coin, probably 28 Days Later, unless that doesn't count to some people, because there's always those, like, the staunch, like, oh, it's not a real zombie movie, blah, blah, blah.
I think Evil Dead is a zombie movie. What are you talking about? Like, I think zombie is anything it's a looser wakes term. Up and is dead person and is trying to kill you.
Okay. But, like, the classic zombie, it's going to be Shaun the Dead.
Yeah, I love that movie.
I quote that movie all the time.
It's my mom's favorite movie.
What? I love your mom.
Yeah, she's a
real slice of gold.
50-year-old librarian, and she loves that movie so much. What was I gonna say? I think I have kind of a theory that, like, culturally, I know that they can represent, you know, the mindless mob and consumerism and all that. But I feel like with monsters in general, but zombies specifically, it's kind of putting our fear of death into something conquerable. Like, they're the physical manifestation of mortality, when they are something that is coming towards you and that you can defeat and you can kill, it's basically like killing death by proxy. So ultimately, it's kind of a hopeful practice to watch horror movies about zombies all the time, because it's like, oh, maybe there is a chance, you know, that we can stave off the impending doom of mortality. But that's just my onion.
Pontypool is...
Yes!
We haven't talked about Pontypool, which is one of my favorite twists on the zombie.
Holy shit. Okay, so Train to Busan plus Pontypool tied for my favorite zombie
That's
movie.
a great one.
I forgot about it.
The idea of a linguistically transmitted virus
through words
is
Loved
it's
it.
so creative.
So good, and it takes place in a radio station, so there's a soundproof booth, but there's also, he can broadcast out to people.
The idea that he's been unknowingly spreading the word virus.
I didn't even get that when I watched that movie. Interesting. Yeah, that's a wonderful one. That's a amazing movie, and so creative.
Yeah.
You can, to me, it's such a tired genre, especially where we are right now with season 23 of The Walking Dead or whatever. But I think when you really can do it right, it's so effective.
I think, yeah, the zombie movie, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to die off, but thankfully there's always going to be a creative spin on it. Like this year, I really wanted to see It Stains the Sand Red.
Oh, yeah.
Which follows a girl or a young woman who is partying like Las Vegas and gets separated from her friends, and she winds up in the desert.
Eek.
And just slowly pursued by a zombie.
Okay.
And while it sounds silly, it's supposed to be actually like really stressful. Like she can't stop and rest at all because it's constantly coming towards her.
I wanted to see The Girl with All the Gifts.
So did I.
But
I've heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, there's something interesting about like humanoid zombies who can still think and you know exist. Like the lady in Return of the Living Dead, who's like, I can feel myself rot. Get more, please, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's really horrific.
Oh yeah, I really like the fungus zombies of The Last of Us.
That's a video game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Some cordyceps taking over the mind and controlling people.
I don't like that.
There's a fungus among us.
Oh my god. Okay.
On that note.
Anything else?
No, I know early next year we're doing a full episode about zombies.
I think we are. That's
so
what's on the schedule.
That will be a continuation of this.
So I think I disagree. Earlier you said you didn't have a personal pick, but I think you do.
I do. Oh my god. Well, thanks. Hopefully you all heard Lynn not so quietly mouthing The Disaster Artist.
I mean, I can't believe you forgot it. We saw it, 24 hours ago?
Less than that. We saw The Disaster Artist last night. Lynn and Al and I, and it was so good.
It was transcendent. It was truly beautiful.
We were out here crying about Tommy Wiseau.
Hey, I've cried about Tommy Wiseau before. He's really an emotional figure for me. But it's truly...
It's the Ed Wood of our time.
Yes, I do not care for James Franco. Let's get that straight.
I'm right there with you.
I hate him. but he truly
I bear him no ill will.
turned in an amazing performance.
Oh,
as
so
Tommy
good.
Wiseau. And it was so funny and just inventive and interesting.
It didn't. Okay, so for those of you who may not have heard of Tommy Wiseau, he directed, starred in, wrote, produced the worst movie of our generation,
The Room.
The Room, which you should quit listening to this podcast and go see it because
it's not available on YouTube with Spanish subtitles, but
Oh,
the whole thing is
perfect.
there because I showed it to my class last week.
it's staggeringly bad.
But in a way that is, you can't look away. It's
Yes.
so wrong in every single
It's
way that it becomes fascinating.
more important to our culture than it's more memorable to our culture than lots of Oscar winners.
Oh, yes.
Looking at you, Shakespeare in Love.
Absolutely. The Artist Who? The Disaster Artist. More
Disaster
like.
Artist, yes.
No, but it's and it's about the making of The Room. And Greg Sestero was kind of Tommy Wiseau's best friend, and he helped to make it, and he wrote a book called The Disaster Artist, so they adapted it. And it's such an emotional movie, and it's so good because, and we've been talking about this in class and all that, and people were like, Lynn, why do you like dumbass things? Defend that for us. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess the mantle falls to me to defend idiot culture, but okay. But I don't know. I've been trying to figure out how to put it into words why I love bad movies, and I think it's because it's romantic to do something just for the hell of it.
And you can still see heart in bad movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I loved how The Disaster Artist doesn't make fun of Tommy Wiseau, which would be so easy because he looks like an alien in a human skin suit.
It's a spiritual successor to Ed Wood, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I've never seen Ed Wood.
It's so
I've wanted to.
beautiful, and it's my favorite work of Burton because it's the most humanistic and the least cartoony. But it's just it's so brave and stupid to like try to make something that's completely yours, and it's so admirable, especially in an industry like Hollywood and the movie industry, because that it is the most expensive art form. It is the most inaccessible to create. But someone's like, nope, I have a vision and I'm gonna fight for it. Even if it's bad, I'm doing it in earnest and I'm creating something of my own volition to put into the world.
Tommy is a dick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but he's also sympathetic. When he's not being a dick.
He doesn't know enough to know he can't, which is such a great place to be, apparently.
Tommy Wiseau has no social cues.
No, and he doesn't care.
And he just goes for it.
It's just, I feel like in terms of movies like that, I owe it to the filmmaker to see it and try to enjoy it and see it for what it is, because maybe someone else won't. And I feel like that's just part of my personality. Like, I would listen to radio at like 2 a.m. just to be like, I'm listening to you, DJ, who thinks no one listening. And I don't know, I just like,
I get that.
Yes. I always wanted to just like,
it's like
be the one who watches when no one else is watching.
It's like getting gas at like 2 a.m. and asking the gas clerk, like, how are you?
Yes, I feel like there's this whole world that is very ignored.
It's the night shift. It's caring for the people on the night shift.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, I want you to know that I'm putting in the effort to appreciate this thing that you have made, because it took balls to make this.
Yeah. You
should be celebrated for daring to do something different in a society, and specifically an industry that
like
depends on sameness.
I feel like this is where the older generation is like, oh, you're just giving them a participation trophy. It's like, no, it's just not being a dick.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, people like Ed Wood and Tommy Wiseau, they made it in a way that was different than what they expected, but they're still loved, and they've still at the end of The Disaster Artist, it's at the premiere, and Tommy's crying because everyone's laughing, and he didn't want them to laugh, but
then
Greg is like, do you think Hitchcock ever got a response like this?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's different, but it's not any less valuable, because that film has brought me immeasurable joy, and watching shit like Sundown the Vampire in Retreat brings me immeasurable joy. And I love it so much because it feels like I'm finding a secret, and that it's special, and it's just between me and this person who made it, and
these
that I
movies
get to love it.
Are also great for like community.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Anyone can enjoy these bad movies, and it's not like, all right, everyone, gather round. We're going to watch Stalker or something.
I do love Stalker, but that's true. Yeah, I mean, it takes initiative to say, I'm going to make a film, knowing that it will probably never be seen. You know, it's like the definition of a passion project.
It very much
and
is.
I passionately watch them.
I think everyone should go see The Disaster Artist this week.
And make it a good double feature with Ed Wood, because it's great.
Oh, that'd be good.
And I posted this on like the class board or whatever, but there is a scene at the end of Ed Wood where he's like at his lowest professionally, and all of these, like, he got investors from like the Methodist Church or something, and they like made him and his friends get baptized to give them movies money to the movie. And so they're like telling what to do, and he doesn't, and all these producers are telling what to do, and he runs into Orson Welles at like the Brown Derby or something, and he's in drag. Ed Wood was a cross-dresser, and he liked to direct and drag. And so he is dressed as a woman, and he goes up to Orson Welles, and he's like, I admire your work, I'm a filmmaker. And Orson Welles is like, oh, I'm having these problems. These producers, they want me to make their vision, and it's not my vision. He's like, I have the same problem, Orson. And then he's like, Ed promised me that visions are worth fighting for, and don't let someone make another version of your dreams. And I'm just like, holy shit.
It's so poignant.
I know. It's just like, it's brave to fail.
And
I appreciate it.
In a way, this podcast is our vision.
No one is listening to this. Those of you who are, we appreciate you.
We love you.
But we have no illusions. We're just doing this because we love it, and that's enough.
This is episode 21. I never imagined we would get past like 5.
I mean, that's yet to be seen how long we last.
Listen, I'm just happy that we keep doing this.
I agree. I mean, what's better than talking about something you love?
That's true.
Other than making something that you love.
That's true. So maybe we'll do our own horror movie.
That'd be nice.
God,
that'd be
so
awesome. And people will watch it in midnight showings and laugh
and
quote
throw
along.
spoons at us, hopefully.
So good, so good.
Well, do you have any recommendations?
I think I do. So I have been trying to finish this goddamn paper. Jeff, if you're listening, I fucking hate you. For assigning me this, because it's upsetting.
So it's not real hatred.
But the whole time, he's not listening to this.
Jeff, I'm trying.
Come on.
If you're listening, I'm trying.
So the whole time I'm writing this goddamn paper that takes forever. I've been watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
You're not going to talk about lesbian vampires?
I didn't like either of those movies that I wrote about.
But you... Okay.
I mean, they're good, you know, lesbian vampires. I love them, but the 2 movies I wrote about weren't great.
Not great, Bob.
So, but yeah, I contain multitudes. I like things other than horror.
It throws me off when you're out here like, The Good Wife.
I love The Good Wife. It is a sexy adult legal drama. I love it so
on
much.
CBS.
It's sophisticated.
Home of NCIS.
Producer Ridley Scott.
Who does not give a fuck.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Christopher Plummer. Get that supporting actor.
Christopher Plummer can replace all the pedophiles and rapists in Hollywood.
Christopher Plummer playing Al Franken. But, so Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was created by Amy Sherman Palladino of Gilmore Girls fame. And I love Gilmore Girls. That's a known fact.
another facet.
Gilmore Girls was in The Disaster
It
Artist.
sure
I lost
was.
my shit.
You lost your shit multiple times.
I was a little
Jason
drunk.
Mantzoukas.
I was still drunk when we went to that
all
movie, but
It was delightful.
quite a bit. But so Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is set in 1958. It is about a woman whose husband is trying to be a comedian, and they are very Jewish. It is probably the most heavily Jewish show I've ever seen in my life. But so she's married to this guy. He goes and he has a set and he bombs. Like,
no.
And she finds out that he's been stealing his material from Bob Newhart and that you know all this stuff. And then he says, "I'm having an affair and I'm leaving you." And so she, her husband leaves her and she doesn't know what to do. So she goes drunk to the club and does a set. And it's the funniest thing anyone's ever heard.
Amazing.
So, and she has this natural talent. She's the funniest person.
Is this a true story?
No, it's based off Joan Rivers, kind of. But yeah, I'm not a fan of her. But Lenny Bruce is in it. She becomes friends with Lenny
All
Bruce.
I know about Lenny Bruce is that he's in REM's End of the World song.
He was a comedian in the 60s, and he was a big part of the counterculture, and he did a lot of drugs when he died. But this was pre that, and so she kind of has to find who she is, who isn't a wife and a mom in late 50s.
I love a good 50s housewife becomes awakened.
Oh, she's so good, and she's so much better than him, which is great. Because that's his whole thing, that she would never support him in his comedy, and she's so much better at what he loves to do than he is, which is great to spite him. But she teams up with Susie, who is this really butch, like lesbian bar runner who becomes her manager, and they get gigs all over the city and stuff like that. And It's truly like feel-good television.
I do love feel-good television.
Oh, they let Amy Sherman Palladino say fuck also, which is crazy because that didn't happen on Gilmore Girls, but it's Amazon, so they can do whatever they want, and it's great. And
get ready for Gilmore Girls Uncut.
we see some sweet boobies in the first episode. She's like, you think Bob Newhart comes home to this every night? And she's like, Rickles maybe. And then she like pulls down her top and she's like, to these, don't look at my face, I've been crying, don't look at, I'm bloated, just look at my tits, they're amazing. She gets arrested for public indecency and nudity. It's really just a super positive, sweet
This is a lot of things that usually when men do it, it's funny on TV shows, and when women do it, it's like gross. But this seems like, hey,
what? It's comedy.
Yeah, like in the double standard, like men can be Han Solo, but if women like shoot first, they're like, ugh, the over emotional. This is like, hey, women can be funny too in these ways.
Oh, she's funny. She drinks. She's not a really good mom, but she's incredibly likable, and I love her to death. Yeah, I love that show. It's so good. So Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon.
From Lynn the Multifaceted.
I enjoy many types of media.
So do I.
Also watch The Good Wife. It's all also on Amazon.
Well, what do we have coming up next week?
Stuart Gordon.
Stuart Gordon. I've never seen any of those movies.
You better just watch Reanimator. Reanimator.
That's my plan.
It's basically going to be Reanimator week. I don't know if I can get a hold of From Beyond. Well, I can probably get a hold of From Beyond, but I don't know if I can get a hold of Castle Freak.
I've wanted to see From Beyond.
Me too, because it's oh god, what's her name? Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs.
Are
Reanimator.
you okay with it being body horror?
Yes, I like Reanimator.
No, From Beyond.
The body horror in those movies is very light and cartoonish.
Not From Beyond.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Everything in From Beyond is Technicolor pink, dude. And then everything in Reanimator is Technicolor green. It's great. I love Herbert West.
We're going to see that penis versus rat fight.
What? In what? In From Beyond?
No, in one of the Reanimators.
One of the Reanimators?
Yeah, there's more than one.
I know, but I haven't seen the second one. Stewie Gordon didn't do the second one.
Oh, okay.
It's Brian Usna.
Well, oh, yeah, that guy's
who
crazy.
also did
Society, yeah.
Yeah, they were producing partners.
Okay. Wait, look for that episode.
Oh yeah, keep it tuned. We're gonna do keep it tuned, I guess is something I just said. We're
That's
gonna
the
be
new
watching
sign-off.
Stewie Gordon and Guillermo this upcoming December. So have a good one. Thanks for listening.
Take care.
See you next week.
Bye.
Teary behaved like a man demented, obsessed, utterly lost.